a popular beggar in Chicago. For 25 years, he always went to the same street corner, never any variety. For 25 years, he was a fixture on Broadway and 5th. He suddenly just disappears. And people would go by who, on occasions, people would fix things for him. He was always there with his sign. And he just wasn't there, and it started to create quite a little bit of buzz as to what maybe could have happened to him. So much so that a newspaper editor went on search to find him. He'd been missing for months. As she began to ask around, somebody knew what had happened to him. Said, he doesn't beg anymore. In fact, he lives in that apartment building just right around the corner there. And they gave some descriptions, and she goes to the apartment. And finally, one evening, she called him there. She didn't recognize him. She looked at him and she said, "What has happened to you?" Oh, he said, "I'm so glad you came to ask about me. I didn't think anybody missed me." And he said, "It was a cold night." He said, "I hadn't had anything to drink in several weeks." He said, "I was having delirium tremens, DTs as they call them, from want of alcohol. I knew I had to have help. I walked off my familiar street corner, had not collected enough money to get me something to drink. I walked into the Mission just to get warm. And in my desperation, I listened. I heard something I'd never heard. I had been in there to get warm before, but I had never heard what I heard that night." He said, "I heard the message of the gospel." And he said, "When they opened the altar, I went forward." He said, "Ma'am, I just cried out to God, help me, save me, deliver me." He said, "They gave me a Bible, and they gave me a bed in their treatment center, and said, it's been almost a year since I've been on that street corner. About a year ago, this happened." He said, "I wore that Bible out they gave me, and it was laying there," and he picked it up, and the cover was completely worn off of it. He said, "But I went back and asked them if you could get another one, and they gave me another one just like it." "Ma'am, do you know about these stories in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John?" She said, "No, I don't, but could you tell me about them?" He said, "Well, let me read you one of my favorite ones." So he opened the Bible, and he began to read to her the story of the woman at the well. And as he started reading, and Jesus was talking to her and offering to her what he could give her that would change her, he began to cry. The tears streamed down his cheeks. She said he dropped out of the seat he was in and got on his knees. And she said tears were streaming down his cheeks, and they were dripping onto the page of his Bible. And she said he got so emotional, he couldn't read. He would stop and he'd say, "Excuse me, ma'am, just give me a minute." And he would go back to reading and get all broke up again. He said, "Excuse me, man, just give me a minute." Well, I'm reading from the article, and she said, "Now, I've heard a lot of people read the Bible, but I've never heard anybody read the Bible like him." She said, "He had me crying, and I didn't know why." She said, "I leaned over when he got done and said, 'Could you explain something to me? Why are you so emotional when you read the Bible?' And she said he was quick to give me a ready answer. He said, 'Oh, ma'am, when I read the Bible, I see him.'" He told her, said, "I just saw him while I was reading you that story. He comes out of the pages and I see him." The name of the article she wrote was "The Beggar of Broadway and 5th has seen the Lord, and all has changed for him." I see one of the most beautiful stories in the life of Christ, the story of the woman at the well. They came to that place, Samaritan village, a place that they weren't really supposed to be. Good Jews didn't go there, but Jesus was on a mission. And he told his disciples, "I've got to go there. I've got to go through there." And he sits on the well curb there right outside of the village, and it was time to get something to eat, and the guys went into town to get something. And I find it really interesting that they met the woman at the well before Jesus did. You see, they passed her on the way to town. I hope they were behaving and on their best behavior. They didn't have any conversation with her. Her coming right after they left, they interacted with her. There was no conversation because, you see, they weren't seeing what Jesus was seeing, and Jesus went there to have that interaction with her. And they were just hoping at McDonald's was going to have a good deal. Ladies and gentlemen, when you look about your community and your neighborhood, what do you see? As you drive about, do you have an eye for the beautiful home and the well-kept lawn or the unkept home? Or do you, when you view men and women, boys and girls, do you have a heart that's filled with eternal love and passion for every one of them? Are you blessed enough that your eyes see souls and not just people? Well, Jesus commented about this. He said, if you're keen to that kind of thing, you have blessed eyes and you have blessed ears. For the hearts of the people, Jesus said, have grown dull. Their ears are hard of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their hearts. I'm sharing a text to tie in with that, talking to you about your blessed eyes and ears. I'm sharing a text with you from an Old Testament passage. Where there is no vision, people perish. Now it's going to another different level and says, where you don't have a vision for what Jesus wants you to have, people are going to perish. I had a lady almost get me this morning over in Bucyrus. I was walking and I came up onto a crosswalk on Main Street there, and she had a stop sign. She was coming along pretty rapid pace, but she had to stop sign there. I was halfway out into the street and I just kept walking. I never got in front of her. All I got was her mirror upside my belly. What she had done is she came into the intersection. She had full intentions of just slow rolling it. And she was looking behind me to make sure there's nobody coming so she could slow roll it and just keep on going. Thoroughly convinced that lady never saw me at all. And I was standing right there. I could have touched her on her ear. I jumped back. She didn't hurt me. Walked around behind her car and got back onto the sidewalk. Well, she pulled up the sidewalk and she was tore all to pieces. She said, "Sir, I'm so sorry. Did I touch you?" I said, "I just barely. You just bumped me." She said, "I didn't see you. How could that be possible?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not all that big." She said, "You were not there. I don't even know how you got there." You see, I was in her blind spot. She looked behind me, and I just was too close for her to see me. I wonder who's in your blind spot. I wonder who God has put in your life. And he's like, I know that guy right there will do him good. I know he will. I know where he's at. And, I brought those two together. And the Lord, with pregnant anticipation, is like, come on, dude. You don't act like you see him. Talk to him. I put him beside you at work. I put him in the pickup truck with you. I put him in your department. Talk to him. If you don't see him, there's the danger that he might perish. Because where there is no vision, people perish. The Greek word for perish is apolumi. It don't mean that the lady trying to slow roll the stop sign is going to run over you and break your leg. No, it means to be utterly and eternally lost. When you and I don't have vision for the people that walk into our office, and we don't have ears to hear them and eyes to see them, that man or that woman stands in danger of being eternally lost. Because the only hands that Jesus has are your hands. The only feet he has are your feet. And it's you he's counting on. You remember what it was like when you were lost and he saved you? You remember what he rolled off of you? How often do you talk about that? Somebody needs to hear that, because somebody carries the same burden that you had, that weighted your life down before he set you free. And you know what Jesus will do? He'll bring that somebody with your same story right into your life. If you still can remember what it was like before he rolled that burden off of you, you could be a great blessing to them.